Ncaa college leaders file landmark agreement in antitrust cases. And I'm gonna go into this article, what was settled and what's next. And I will put this article in the description below so you all can see. And it's per Ross Dillinger on this. For decades, the Ncaa and college sports leaders went to great lengths to avoid both courts and congressional intervention. Now, in the wake of a landmark settlement agreement, the courts hold significant oversight over the industry's new model, and only Congress can prevent what some college leaders see as inevitable end, aka athlete employment. The Ncaa and Power Conferences on Friday filed their 100-page long agreement form in the settlement of three antitrust lawsuits: House, Hubbard, and Carter, ushering in a future of athlete revenue sharing, expanding scholarships to full rosters, and creating a historic enforcement system of arbitration overseen by the courts. And these new concepts will take effect at the start of the 2025-2026 academic year, next summer or fall. The plaintiff attorneys representing thousands of athletes who brought the class action suits over athlete compensation or lack thereof separately filed documents Friday detailing how they plan to distribute nearly $2.8 billion in damages to former players over a 10-year period. According to documents sent to Yahoo Sports, 83% of the back pay, $2.3 billion, is expected to go to an estimated 19,000 football and men's basketball players, and many of them from power conferences. That is an average of $120,000 per player over the 10-year period, or $12,000 a year. The back damages formula could guide how schools distribute revenue going forward. The first back payments are due this coming spring after, presumably, the settlement is approved by presiding Judge Claudia Wilkin of the U.S. District Court of Northern California. Friday's filings were the latest step in the settlement approval process that could stretch attorneys contend into the early portion of next year. The long form filing from the defendants, the Ncaa, and five power leagues includes dozens of pages of legal jargon, offset with the all-important injunctive relief argument. A 31-page document detailing the revenue sharing pool and cap, new roster limits for sports, and an enforcement mechanism unlike anything college sports has seen. While the settlement grants plenty of authority to the Ncaa and conferences, as well as protecting their existing and future rules, the court and plaintiff attorneys, most notably Jeffrey Ketzler and Steve Berman, are tasked with overseeing and managing various aspects of the future model, including the operation and enforcement of college sports' new quasi-salary cap. A court-appointed special master will settle disputes over compliance and interpretation matters about the new revenue-sharing model, a role currently occupied by the Ncaa office. A neutral arbiter is charged with hearing and ruling on appeals from athletes or schools found to have violated rules connected to the new model, a role currently held by the Ncaa's infractions entity. Plaintiff attorneys, as well as their class of athletes. A new freshman class is automatically added to the settlement next year. Each year hold a role in the development of the enforcement process of the new salary cap and are partly responsible for monitoring such over the next decade of the agreement. While much of this filing has previously been reported, the document did provide some new information and more specifics around various concepts, and most notably like an enforcement and arbitration system to police the third party and NIL entities such as collectives, and with the escalating pool of revenue that schools are permitted to share with the athletes. And I will discuss like the new scholarship and roster structure in a different video here. But the NIL, the third party NIL and arbitration, like one of the biggest looming uncertainties as part of the settlement agreement is its impact on third party booster backed collectives. Collectives provide millions to athletes in what many believe to be cash incentives disguised as as endorsement deals for the name, image, and likeness, aka NIL. Language in the settlement seeks to eliminate or greatly reduce what many college leaders describe as phony NIL payments from booster organizations to athletes. The settlement does this through an assortment of rules enforcement that is protected through the court. For instance, and there's 4 bullet points on this. One of the biggest boosters for or any third party entity or business for that matter are expressly prohibited from striking NIL deals with athletes unless they can prove the agreements are genuine with rates that align with similarly situated individuals with comparable NIL value who are not players at the school. The settlement reads, the second bullet point, all third party NIL deals of $600 or more must be approved by a newly created clearinghouse that is expected to vet the agreements for authenticity by using fair market value standards. For those deals not approved, the NCAA conferences and or a new third-party enforcement entity has authority to deem athletes ineligible and or to fine schools for violations as they do now. However, this is the next bullet point. However, unlike now, those punishments can be appealed to an agreement upon neutral arbitrator. The arbitration process, according to the settlement, is designed to be more accelerated and a neutral procedure than the NCAA's current infraction system, where committees of schools and representatives will determine matters. The arbitrator must rule within 45 days of the beginning of the arbitration process, but an extension is possible. The arbitration ruling is final and binding according to the settlement. Thank goodness for consistency and all that. During this is the last bullet point. During arbitration, enforcement penalties, for instance, a player ruled ineligible will be stayed until a ruling. Arbitrators have the power to request the production of documents and witness testimony. It's unclear if that emails subpoena power. Yeah. Okay, the next part of it is circumventing the cap. The settlement also seeks to eliminate ways for schools to use third-party NIL agreements to circumvent the annual revenue sharing cap. For instance, and there's 2 bullet points, and I'm going to just sum it up all in one saying here. The settlement gives the NCAA and leagues power to adopt rules that prohibit any transactions designed to defeat or circumvent the cap. It says the settlement makes clear that schools' funds used by an outside entity to distribute to athletes will count against the revenue sharing cap. This is a significant piece of information that seeks to eliminate the possibility of schools circumventing the cap by funneling institutional monies through multimedia rights holders, foundations, collectives, and other agencies for athlete distribution, as some are currently doing. While that practice is permitted, the monies distributed are subjected to the revenue sharing cap, and NIL deals with athletes must be approved by the clearinghouse. That's all on the bullet points there. There is, however, one way to circumvent the cap. As part of the revenue sharing model, schools can serve as an athlete's marketing agent for third-party NIL deals by entering into exclusive or non-exclusive endorsement deals to purchase a player's NIL. This is the transaction action that permits schools to share revenue with athletes, but it also does something else. Schools are permitted to procure outside third-party NIL deals for athletes that do not count against the revenue sharing cap, as long as those deals are proven to be authentic. Such a policy incentivizes schools to find organic endorsement deals for their athletes with brands and businesses. Schools can use a marketing agency to do this. For instance, as part of its endorsement agreement with an athlete, a school can distribute revenue to that athlete while also using the athlete's likeness in separate agreements with brands and businesses to generate more money. Player A, for example, receives $100,000 in revenue share from his school, but also receives $50,000 from a third party for an endorsement deal that is approved as authentic. The $50,000 is exempt from the revenue sharing cap. Now, the revenue sharing pool, which has been reported for months now, the formula to determine the revenue sharing cap is 22% of an average of a certain power school's revenues, as noted in the long settlement agreement. Those figures include most notably ticket sales, TV contracts, and sponsorships. The financial figures that schools must recently reported to the Ncaa are used to reach an average, which means the exact cap figure for year one in 2025 to 2026 will remain uncertain until the completion of 2024-2025. Attorneys told Yahoo Sports. However, administrators are working off of an estimate of about $21.5 million as the annual cap starting point, while 22% will remain the same through the 10-year agreement. The cap money will rise based on built-in escalators as well as scheduled recalculations that are spelled out in a long agreement form, and there's a chart. So, and y'all could look at that. Like I've shown in the chart, like in years 2 and 3 of the deal, the money will automatically increase by 4%. In year 4, a recalculation of revenues will generate a new cap. A 3-year process repeats over the 10 years length of the settlement. Revenues are expected to increase as cash flow into departments. In fact, plaintiffs and their attorneys have 2 options over the 10-year period to trigger non-scheduled recalculation of the average. Decisions likely made when conferences enter a new, more lucrative TV deal or beginning the new college football playoff monies. And Ohio State athlete AD Ross Bjork, BJORK, I apologize if I Butcher that told Yahoo Sports this week that he expects the cap to rise to 24 million as soon as year 2 and break 25 million by year 4. But year 4 recalculation happens, and over the 10-year deal, the plaintiffs' attorneys expect college athletes at major conference schools to receive more than $20 billion in revenue from their schools. That's about $28 million annually per power conference school. Over the duration of the decade, there are exceptions, though, that artificially lower the cap, including as much as like $2.5 million in Austin related money already going to athletes, and $2.5 million in additional scholarships offered that were not previously permitted under NCAA rules. And there's more notes about the NCAA from this long form settlement. So, and those are like the following: 1, those that are not defendant schools and conferences in the group of 5, like FCS and non-football playing Division I programs, are bound by the roster limits reporting system that and enforcement mechanisms only if they choose to share revenue athletes. They could opt out of the new model if they decline the revenue share, the shared revenue. 2, there will likely be 2 portions of attorneys' fees: one for their role in a future revenue sharing model, and another for the back damages. Attorneys are requesting about $500 million in attorney fees related to back damages, 18% of the $2.77 billion. As for the revenue sharing piece, attorneys are requesting $20 million up front, plus a count of the total amount of the revenue shared with athletes each year. The cut starts about 0.75% and has built-in escalators to 1.5%. The 70 power schools are expected to at least share a combined $1.5 billion with athletes per year, including the upfront fee of $20 million, and attorneys will receive $150 million at the very least from this portion of the settlement. Okay, next bullet point. The plaintiffs and attorneys will assist in NCAA and power conference lobbying efforts for congressional legislation to codify the settlement agreement, and most importantly, not advocate against the NCAA on Capitol Hill, which they very much have done over the last several months. They will take a neutral stance on the employment issues, and according to the settlement language. Okay, next bullet point. As expected, the settlement features an option to actually terminate the agreement if employment and collective bargaining arrives in college sports. Okay, next bullet point. The settlement protects NCAA rules around 1, like 4-year athlete eligibility over 5 years, and 2, an athlete's requirement to pursue a degree to participate in the revenue sharing. And last but not least on the bullet points, the first back damage payment is due May 15th of 2025, or within 45 days of the settlement's finalization, which attorneys expect to happen in the early part of 2025, like January, February, or subsequent yearly payments will be made each July 15th. So I apologize for the length of this video, but I just want to go into detail about this. So anyways, if you like this content, hit the like and subscribe button. See you guys later on the road to 7 subscribers. Course ultimate goal is 1,000 more, so make money off this course. Like a video, comment video really helps YouTube algorithm so more people can see it. Sharing the video does help as well, so more people can watch. And if you're watching and not subscribed, hit subscribe button. Free the notification bell as well.